Struggling, ad offers shelter to injured dog next day. Its owner sends a limousine. He thought it was just a wounded stray, a limping mutt with sad eyes and a torn ear left to die in the freezing dark. But what one struggling father didn't realize was that this dog belonged to someone very powerful, very rich, and very desperate to get him back. What began as a quiet act of kindness would soon bring a limousine to a broken porch and rewrite the future for a man and his son, clinging to what little they had left. If you believe in second chances, and that even the smallest gesture can change everything, this is one story you won't want to miss. The wind had teeth that night. It bit through flannel and denim like paper, howled around the rusting eaves of the trailer, and clawed at every crack in the windows. Inside, Logan Reed double-checked the gas heater for the third time, nerves coiled tight like a spring. The propane was low, the groceries lower, and the rent notice pinned crooked on the fridge was no longer a warning, it was a countdown. Across the room, his 10-year-old son Jesse lay curled on the old pull-out sofa, lost in a tangle of blankets and dreams, still wearing the hoodie 2 sizes too small, but never willing to give it up. Logan stared out the frosted window, trying to ignore the gnaw of worry in his gut, when something moved just past the edge of the porch light. At first, he thought it was a coyote. Then he saw the limp and the blood, a dog, big and battered, dragging one paw as it tried to climb the stairs. No collar, no sound, just those eyes, yellow, glassy, and full of something that looked a lot like sorrow. Logan opened the door before he could talk himself out of it. "Easy. Boy," he murmured, crouching low. "I ain't got much, but it's warm in here." The dog hesitated, one paw lifted midair like it was waiting for permission. Logan could see its ribs under the matted fur, saw the torn pad of its foot streaking the snow with red. Jesse stirred on the couch, and Logan held a finger to his lips, silently praying the boy would keep sleeping. The last thing they needed was more questions, more worry. "Come on," he said again, softer now, stepping back to give the dog space. The animal limped through the doorway like it had always known the way, its head low, tail dragging. Logan grabbed an old towel from the laundry pile and dropped to his knees beside the dog. The smell hit him first, blood, fear, and weeks without a bath. He didn't flinch. He just started wiping the dog down, slow and steady, like he was tuning an old engine. Under the grime, the dog was a deep chestnut color with streaks of gray at the muzzle. Not young, not wild. Someone had loved this dog once. Logan could feel it in the way the animal leaned into his hands. Not like it was scared, but like it finally stopped running. He found a shallow gash along the front leg and another near the shoulder. Nothing life-threatening but painful enough to explain the limp. From under the sink, he pulled out a half-used first aid kit, one of those things Jesse's mom had insisted on keeping before she walked away for good. Logan patched what he could with gauze and gentle hands, muttering apologies and reassurances as he worked. The dog didn't growl, didn't move, just watched him with those unreadable eyes. When he was done, Logan set down a chipped cereal bowl filled with what little ground beef he had left and poured some water beside it. The dog ate like it hadn't seen food in days, but still stopped short of licking the bowl clean. Pride, maybe, or discipline. Logan watched from the kitchen, arms crossed, heart a tangle of worry and something else he couldn't name. "You got a name, old boy?" he asked aloud, knowing he wouldn't get an answer. Jesse mumbled in his sleep and turned over, and the dog looked that way for a long beat, like it recognized something familiar. Then it lay down on the rug by the heater with a groan that sounded almost human. The next morning came too fast. The cold was still sharp enough to make Logan's teeth ache, and the propane tank clicked ominously when he lit the stove. He was pouring weak coffee into mismatched mugs when Jesse rubbed his eyes and sat up, blinking at the dog like it was part of a dream. "Dad," the boy asked, voice thin and wondering. "Did you get us a dog?" Logan gave a tired half-smile. "He found us, Bud. Just for the night. Jesse slid off the couch and crossed the room barefoot, dropping to his knees beside the dog with none of the hesitation his father had shown. The dog lifted its head, sniffed his hand, and licked it once. Jesse beamed. Logan turned away too quickly, pretending to focus on the coffee. It wasn't the right time to get attached. He didn't even know what he was going to feed the dog tonight. But that moment, his son laughing like he hadn't in weeks, the dog pressing close like it already belonged, Logan let it live. Just for now. He was halfway through debating whether the shelter would even take in a dog that size when the knock came. 3 sharp raps on the front door. Logan stiffened. Visitors weren't common. He opened the door slowly, shielding his eyes against the morning glare. And then he saw it. A black limousine, parked crooked in the dirt drive like it didn't belong to this world. A man in a dark wool coat stood next to it. Hair neat, eyes sharp. "Logan Reed?" he asked. Logan nodded, instinctively stepping in front of Jesse. The man smiled faintly and gestured toward the dog, now sitting quietly behind Logan's legs. "You have something that belongs to someone very important. She'd like to thank you in person." Logan didn't move right away. The words felt like a trick, like someone was filming this for a hidden camera show. Important people didn't show up in limousines to thank men like him. They didn't even come down his road. The man waited, polite but unreadable, his gloved hands folded in front of him like he had all the time in the world. "And who exactly is this someone?" Logan asked, keeping his voice steady, though his stomach was already tying itself in knots. The man tilted his head slightly, as if considering how much to say. "Let's just say, she's been searching for that dog for nearly 2 weeks. And there's not much in this world she hasn't been able to find. Until now." Logan's eyes flicked to Jesse, who stood just behind him clutching the dog's collar, face pale with nerves and curiosity. The dog, for its part, hadn't barked, hadn't growled. It just watched the man like it understood exactly what was happening. "Do we need to return him right now?" Jesse asked, voice small. Logan glanced at his son, then back at the man. "Give us 5 minutes." The man nodded. "Take your time." The door shut with a soft thud, and Logan crouched beside the dog. "You belong to someone rich." "Huh?" he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Jesse looked heartbroken already, fingers tangled in the dog's thick fur. "But he likes it here." Logan didn't answer, because he liked it here too. That warmth, the weight of the animal curled up between them last night, the way Jesse had smiled without forcing it. It felt like something they hadn't had in a long time, peace. Still, he couldn't deny the truth. The dog wasn't theirs, and pretending otherwise wasn't right. Logan stood, pulled on his jacket, and opened the door again. The man opened the rear passenger door of the limo without a word. Logan felt his throat tighten as Jesse hesitated beside him. And then the dog walked forward on its own, calm and sure. A woman stepped out of the vehicle. She wore a navy coat belted at the waist, leather gloves, and sunglasses too big for the soft light of morning. But when she dropped to her knees in the frozen dirt and held her arms open, the dog bolted into her like gravity had just been restored. She buried her face in his fur, murmuring something into his neck that no one else could hear. Logan looked away, gave them the moment. When she finally rose, she turned to him, older than he'd guessed, but beautiful in that graceful, untouched way that came with money and loss. Her voice was low, composed. "They told me I'd never see him again." She stepped closer, hand outstretched. "I'm Evelyn Wyatt. Thank you for saving my best friend." Logan shook her hand, unsure what to say. "I didn't do much, just gave him a warm place to sleep." Evelyn smiled softly. "Sometimes, that's more than enough." Her eyes shifted to Jesse. "He was gentle with you." Jesse nodded, still gripping his dad's hand like a lifeline. "He's the best dog ever." Evelyn's gaze lingered, something unspoken passing between them. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a white envelope, held it toward Logan. This is just a small thank you. Logan didn't move. We're not looking for handouts. Evelyn didn't blink. And I don't give them. I offer gratitude, with no strings attached. Just open it later. The limo pulled away not long after, the taillights glowing red against the snow-dusted road. Jesse didn't say anything for a long time. Just watched the dog until it disappeared behind the trees. Logan didn't open the envelope until after Jesse fell asleep that night. Inside was a handwritten note. Come by Wyatt Estate if you ever need anything. The gate will open for you. Always. And below it, a check. Enough zeros to take Logan's breath away. But it wasn't the money that made his hands shake. It was the idea that, for once, maybe kindness could come back around. Maybe the world wasn't as hard as it had always seemed. Logan didn't sleep that night. Not really. He lay on the pullout, eyes on the ceiling. The envelope resting on the counter like it might grow teeth and bite. The check was tucked inside again, unreadable in its weight. He hadn't told Jesse the number. He couldn't bring himself to. It felt like cheating somehow, like letting money solve a problem that wasn't only about bills. It was about dignity, about showing his boy that they could get through the hard days without handouts. And yet, he wasn't stupid. The power company didn't take pride. The landlord wouldn't trade rent for resolve. That kind of money could fix everything wrong with their lives. But it couldn't fix the hollow way his chest felt since the dog left. That ache, it settled in fast. And Jesse hadn't spoken a word since the limo pulled away. By morning, Logan made up his mind. Not about the money. Not yet. But he needed answers. Who exactly was Evelyn Wyatt? And why did a woman like that show up alone in a town that didn't even make Google Maps? He waited until Jesse was at school, gave the kid his only clean sweatshirt and leftover waffles, and then drove out toward the actual address scribbled at the bottom of the note. Wyatt Estate. It said, no directions, just confidence, like anyone in their right mind would already know how to find it. The road turned from pavement to gravel, from gravel to dirt, and then to a long stretch lined with trees so thick the sun barely touched the ground. And then, like something out of a dream, the trees broke and the world opened. The house wasn't a house at all. It was a mansion, stone walls, wide porches, windows taller than his trailer. A gate stood open like it had been waiting for him. He drove through slow, heart pounding. The air here smelled different, cleaner, like cut grass and cinnamon and quiet. He parked in the circular drive and barely had time to step out before a voice called his name. Evelyn was standing at the top of the steps, a cup of tea in hand like she'd been expecting him since dawn. Logan, she said, smiling. I hoped you'd come. She motioned for him to follow. And he did, up the steps, into a home that felt more like a museum than anything he'd ever walked through. Warm wood floors, bookcases that touched the ceilings, and paintings that probably cost more than his truck. This place, he murmured. Evelyn set her tea down and folded her hands. Hasn't felt like home in years. She finished for him. Not since my husband passed. Not since everything got so quiet. They sat in a sunroom with glass walls that overlooked rolling fields. Logan tried not to stare at the way she carried herself, like someone used to being underestimated. That dog, he finally said. He's more than just a pet. Evelyn nodded, her smile sad. His name is Bentley. He was my husband's, raised him from a pup. After Richard died, Bentley stopped eating, stopped moving, until one day he just disappeared. I thought he went off to die, but he didn't. He was looking for something, for someone. Logan shifted in his seat, suddenly unsure if he wanted to hear the rest. Evelyn didn't stop. People don't understand grief. Logan? Not really. They want it tidy, manageable. But Bentley, he knew. He saw it. He felt it. And he ran from this place because it hurt too much. But then he found you. And your boy. And he stayed. Her eyes found his. Do you know what that tells me? Logan swallowed hard. No, ma'am. She leaned forward. It tells me your house felt like home. And that's not something money buys. That's something built with heart. She paused, voice softening. Logan, I meant what I said. I owe you. And not just for the dog. For reminding me what it feels like to come alive again. I want to help. Not with charity. With opportunity. He stared at her. What kind of opportunity? Evelyn smiled. There's a guest house out back. Needs work. But it's got bones. I've got land that needs tending. Fences that need mending. And people I can't always trust to do it right. But I think I can trust you. You and your boy live here. Work here. Let this place be a home for you too. Logan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Because for the first time in years, he didn't know how to say no to something that sounded dangerously close to hope. Logan didn't answer Evelyn that day. He drove home with the offer sitting in his chest like a full cup of hot coffee, warming, comforting, but too easy to spill. He didn't want to make a choice just because things were hard. And things were hard. The heater barely worked. The fridge buzzed like it was dying. And Jesse had grown quiet in a way that worried him more than anything. The boys still checked the window every morning. Like maybe Bentley might trot back up the driveway. And when Logan told him they'd been invited to visit the estate, Jesse didn't smile. He just nodded. Too careful for his age. Like he didn't want to hope too much in case it all slipped away again. They went that Saturday. Logan cleaned up the truck best he could. Made Jesse wear jeans with only one hole in the knee. The gate opened as they approached. Smooth and silent. Like the place knew they were coming. Evelyn met them at the guest house. Not the main house. Dressed down in jeans and a light jacket. A dog treat in her pocket. Bentley came bounding out from behind her, healed and full of energy, and ran straight for Jesse. The boy dropped to his knees on the gravel. Arms open. Bentley knocked him over in seconds. Laughter spilled out of Jesse's chest, real, round laughter, and Logan felt his knees go weak. The guest house was more than they needed and more than they ever had. 2 bedrooms, a fireplace, windows that looked out over a pond that shimmered in the afternoon light. Evelyn showed them around, pointing out what needed fixing: loose hinges, creaky floors, a leaky faucet. Nothing urgent, she said, just enough to make it yours. She didn't hover. She handed Logan a ring of keys and said, stay as long as you want. Work as much as you like. We'll figure it out. Then she turned and walked back up the path with Bentley at her side, like she knew he needed time to breathe. They didn't move in right away. Logan still had pride, and the lease on the trailer didn't end for another 3 weeks. But he started coming up most afternoons, working on the little things, fixing the porch railing, replacing a cracked window pane. Jesse followed after school, sometimes with homework, sometimes just to play with Bentley. It was slow, quiet, steady work, the kind that didn't ask for more than a willing hand and a little bit of time. Logan didn't realize he was humming again until Jesse pointed it out. You only do that when you're happy, the boy said. Logan just nodded and kept hammering. The move came sooner than planned. One night, the power went out at the trailer and didn't come back. The landlord didn't answer. The propane tank was bone dry, and Jesse was curled up in bed with the jacket on. Logan made the call without saying a word. He packed 2 duffel bags, grabbed the toolbox, and drove through the night. They arrived at the estate just before sunrise. Evelyn wasn't awake, but the porch light on the guest house was a quiet welcome. Living there changed things fast. Not just the warm beds or the stocked pantry or the way the heater never groaned in protest. It changed Jesse. The boy smiled more, slept better. He started helping Logan with repairs and told Evelyn's staff he wanted to learn how to build things. Logan started managing the land, fixing gates, clearing brush, patching the roofs, work that used his hands and cleared his mind. He found himself talking to Evelyn more, not just about work, but about books, music, the way grief doesn't leave but changes shape over time. She listened the way no one had in years. Then one morning, Evelyn asked if they could have dinner, just the three of them. Nothing fancy. She cooked. Logan brought homemade cornbread. Jesse wore a collared shirt, nervous but trying not to show it. They laughed, talked about school, about dogs, about everything and nothing. And when the meal was over, Evelyn leaned in and said softly, "This doesn't have to end. You know, you could stay, really stay, for good." Logan looked at Jesse, then back at her. The boy's eyes were wide, full of that cautious hope again. And this time, Logan didn't make him wait. He nodded. "We're already home." Spring came early that year, the kind that crept in soft through open windows and lay gold across the hardwood floors of the guest house. Logan hadn't seen a spring like this in years. Warm, forgiving, full of days that didn't hurt to live in. He woke early, brewed real coffee instead of reheating yesterday's, and watched Jesse run barefoot through the dew-chilled grass with Bentley bounding beside him. No screen time, no complaints, just the kind of joy that blooms when the weight finally lifts. Logan didn't say it out loud, but every morning felt like a second chance. Work on the estate picked up as the weather warmed. Evelyn gave Logan full reign of the property, fencing contracts, tool budgets, livestock schedules. He hired 2 more hands from town, old friends who knew how to work but hadn't had a break in years. They rebuilt the western pasture fence and repaired the north stable roof before the first week of April. Evelyn wasn't just generous, she trusted him. And for a man who had spent years being told he wasn't enough, that trust built something inside him sturdier than pride. It built purpose. Evelyn herself changed too. She wasn't as guarded anymore. She'd sit on the porch in the evenings, wine in one hand, a book in the other, always with a blanket thrown over her knees. No matter how warm the day had been, Logan joined her sometimes. They talked about things people don't usually say out loud: mistakes, regrets, the slow unraveling of people you love, but also about dreams, the kind that sneak back when you think you've buried them. Evelyn had one. She wanted to open the estate to the public again, like it had been in the 1950s orchard tours. Craft fairs, summer concerts under the stars. It's time this place had people in it again. She told Logan one night, "And I want you to help me build it." It wasn't just a job anymore. It was a mission. Logan threw himself into it. Designed walkways, coordinated permits, talked with local vendors and artists. Jesse got involved too, sketching logos for flyers and dreaming up names for the fairground booths. Evelyn had a knack for pulling people in, and Logan saw it firsthand when half the town showed up one weekend just to volunteer, painting fences, planting wildflowers, donating stage lights and sound equipment. For the first time, Logan didn't feel like a visitor here. He felt like a part of something, a root, not just a leaf. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was a quiet Sunday morning. Jesse was at a sleepover. Evelyn called Logan to the main house, said she needed help with something on the second floor. He climbed the grand staircase, boots echoing on old wood, and found her in a room he'd never seen before. It was a nursery, empty but spotless, painted pale green, with a crib assembled and folded linen stacked high. Evelyn stood in the doorway, hands clasped, eyes unreadable. "This was supposed to be for my son," she said softly. "But he never came. Lost the baby 6 months after Richard passed. Thought I'd packed it all away. But then you and Jesse showed up." Logan didn't speak. He couldn't. She turned toward him. "I didn't mean to fall for you, but I have, and I don't want to pretend I haven't. Not anymore." The silence stretched like a held breath. Then she added, voice trembling, "Do you think there's space for someone like me in the life you're building?" Logan stepped forward, reached for her hand. His voice was rough when it came. "You already fit. Evelyn, you've been part of our life since the moment you opened that door." She smiled through tears. And in that moment, something healed for both of them. Later that evening, Jesse came home with grass in his hair and a popsicle stain on his shirt. He saw them sitting on the porch swing, Evelyn's head resting on Logan's shoulder, and grinned like he'd known it all along. Bentley barked once, chasing a squirrel, and the sunset painted the sky in every color worth keeping. The world didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be full of moments like this. And for once, Logan wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. He was just living. By summer, the estate had transformed. What was once a quiet, grieving place now pulsed with life. Kids laughing in the orchards, music spilling from the barn, the smell of kettle corn floating through the air like a promise. The first festival opened on a Saturday in June. Logan stood near the front gate, hands on his hips, watching the crowd flow in like a tide he still didn't quite believe was real. Jesse darted between booths with a walkie-talkie clipped to his belt, giving official updates like he ran the whole thing. Evelyn was in her element, graceful, grounded, hosting every guest like she'd been doing it her whole life. The day was perfect in a way that didn't feel accidental. People from town who once barely waved now shook Logan's hand, thanked him for what he'd built. A local newspaper reporter asked to feature the festival's story, said it was a rare example of how community grows from compassion. Logan gave a half smile and said he'd just fixed fences. But inside, something bloomed. He'd been running from failure so long, he forgot what it felt like to build something worth staying for. Now, every nail he'd driven, every field he'd cleared, every long night fixing busted water lines, it all added up to this. A life that felt whole. That night, long after the crowd had thinned and the music faded, Evelyn and Logan walked the orchard alone, lit by string lights in the hush of fireflies. Jesse was already asleep in the guest house, worn out from running the prize wheel and eating too many caramel apples. Bentley padded behind them, tail swishing, nose low to the ground. Evelyn reached for Logan's hand without a word. They walked in silence, hearts full in a way that didn't need filling anymore. At the edge of the field, she stopped. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't opened your door that night? Logan chuckled softly. Every day, she turned toward him, eyes shining. I'm glad you did. They kissed under the summer stars, slow and certain. No fanfare, no big moment. Just two people who had been broken in all the same places, finding something strong enough to hold both their weight. The kind of love that doesn't show up loud but stays. The kind that starts with a knock and ends with a home. The letter came in the fall, long after the festival and well into the rhythm of the life they'd built. It arrived in a thick cream envelope, the kind that usually brought bills or court notices. But this one was embossed with gold trim and a logo Logan didn't recognize. Inside, a handwritten note from Evelyn's attorney, not cold or formal, but deeply personal. It read simply, as per Evelyn Wyatt's wishes, full ownership of the guest house, 10 surrounding acres, and Bentley is hereby transferred to Logan Reed and Jesse Reed. In perpetuity. Logan sat down hard on the porch steps, letter trembling in his hands. Evelyn hadn't mentioned any of this. She didn't need to. She'd already given them everything that mattered. He didn't tell Jesse right away. Instead, he watched his son run through the orchard that afternoon, chasing Bentley between the trees, sunlight flashing off golden leaves. He thought about the road they'd come from, about nights without heat, meals that stretched thinner than they should have, and the silence that used to sit at their dinner table like a third shadow. And now, laughter came easy. Doors stayed open. Home was more than a roof. It was roots. It was promise. It was peace. Later that evening, Logan folded the letter and placed it in the old cigar box where he kept things worth remembering. Jesse sat beside him on the porch, barefoot, popsicle in hand. Dad, he said after a while, do you think Bentley ever knew all this would happen? Logan smiled, watching the dog chase fireflies like a pup half his age. I think, he said slowly, Bentley didn't just find us. He brought us home. The stars blinked on above them. And for the first time in a long time, there was nothing left to fix, only more to live for. Sometimes, the biggest miracles begin with the smallest choices. A warm towel on a cold night. A door left open. A heart that chooses kindness even when it has nothing left to give. Logan didn't rescue a dog that night. He rescued himself, his son, and a future they never dared to dream. This isn't just a story about struggle or second chances. It's a reminder that love finds a way through broken fences, quiet grief, and moments that seem ordinary until they change everything. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, we'd love for you to join this journey with us. Share this with someone who believes in the power of compassion. Follow for more real stories that restore faith in the goodness of people. Because sometimes the world just needs a little more light, and sometimes that light begins with you.